Imagine this. You're already struggling to afford a home because prices are up 53% in the last 5 years. Mortgage rates have doubled and bidding wars are still fairly common. Then someone says, hey, what if we made this even harder? Well, if Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are privatized, that's exactly what will happen. These two mortgage giants have been under government control since the 2008 crash, and now some entities want to set them free. If this happens, we could be looking at even higher mortgage rates, more expensive homes, and a market that gets even more brutal for first-time buyers. So today, we're watching a video from CNBC that breaks down this whole mess, and I'll be giving you my real-time thoughts. No fluff, no jargon, just the truth. I'm Ben Belack, and this is The Breakdown, only on Estate Media.
Today's housing market is pricey and competitive. The supply of homes for sale is low, and prices are 53% higher than they were 5 years ago.
Okay, first of all, 53%? That's insane.
That's insane.
If you bought a home 5 years ago, congratulations. You basically just won the lottery. But if you're trying to buy now, it's rough. And yeah, mortgage rates doubling since 2022 doesn't help. So with affordability already at historic lows, we're now talking about a policy shift that could push rates even higher.
Then there are mortgage rates, which have more than doubled since 2022.
And I do want to note that mortgage rates shot up yesterday after the Fed announcement.
Although rates are high, the mortgage market itself is healthy, with low numbers of delinquencies and foreclosures. The vast majority of home loans today are backed by the federal government, either through the Federal Housing Administration, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, or Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Fannie and Freddie used to be private companies, but since 2008, they've been under close government supervision. Some now say that conservatorship needs to end.
So if everything is running smoothly now, though, the mortgage market is running well, why take them out of conservatorship?
See, I think the concern is that there are underlying problems that are being missed. We have a mortgage finance system that works really well on the upside, but isn't prepared for a downturn. While I am optimistic about the overall state of the economy, are we putting the taxpayer at risk?
So the system is working, the mortgage market is stable, but we're considering shaking things up.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
That's like being on a perfectly smooth flight and deciding to take apart the engine mid-air. What's the reasoning here?
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac buy mortgages from lenders. They then pool those loans into products called mortgage-backed securities. They then sell those securities to investors. In doing so, they funnel the money that lenders need in order to lend.
Ultimately, what investors are willing to pay for those mortgage-backed securities determine how much Fannie and Freddie could pay the lender who originates. So it all flows back to the lender.
And that determines mortgage rates.
Exactly.
Fannie and Freddie are also known as government-sponsored enterprises, or the GSEs. Fannie Mae was initially a government agency, chartered in 1938.
This is the big one. The reason mortgage rates are somewhat reasonable, and I say somewhat because let's be real, 7% still stings, is because Fannie and Freddie guarantee these loans. Take that guarantee away, investors see more risk. More risk, higher rates. And higher rates, well, that's just great news for anyone who loves paying more for the same house.
Foreclosures are rising, and the biggest problem is that prices continue to drop. Until home prices stop falling, things just aren't going to get any better.
In 2008 alone, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac lost a combined $109 billion stemming from those risky loans. They were placed into government conservatorship that year. The Federal Housing Finance Agency would be their conservator, and the Treasury would give the mortgage giants two $100 billion credit lines. The value of Fannie and Freddie's stocks plunged to basically nothing.
The fact that the government will now begin buying loans to the tune of $5 billion for a start will have a direct effect on the housing market, specifically through mortgage rates and availability.
Between 2008 and 2011, the two lost $266 billion. The majority of that came from the risky loans they bought in 2006 and 2007.
Treasury Secretary Paulson at the time under President Bush, this was in that period, said, I'm fearful that these entities are just going to fail. We can't let that happen because the economy and the housing market is falling apart anyway. So if I let these guys fail, it's going to be complete disaster. So they decided to put them in conservatorship, and in my mind, that was a good decision.
100%. Let's be honest. If these companies run into trouble again, do you really think the government would just let them crash? No shot. So then what's the point of privatizing them? If we're going to backstop them anyway, why introduce the risk of higher rates for buyers?
2012, the Treasury also initiated a sweep of their profits, requiring the two to return nearly all that money to the government. It was a way of getting taxpayer bailout money back over time. Fannie and Freddie's shareholders would get no future profits. The housing market slowly recovered, those risky loans were made illegal, and careful, tight underwriting became the norm.
All right, so let's break this down in simple terms. If Fannie and Freddie go private, mortgage rates will probably go up, maybe by as much as a half to a full point, according to Moody's. That might not sound like much, but let me show you how that plays out. That's an extra couple $100 a month, every single month for the next 30 years. Do we really want to make housing more unaffordable? I don't see how that helps anyone. Look, I get the argument for privatization, less government involvement, more competition, but we're already in one of the toughest housing markets in history. Privatizing Fannie and Freddie won't build more homes, won't lower prices, and it won't fix affordability. But it will likely make it even harder for first-time buyers to break in. So here's my advice if you're thinking about buying a house. Watch this space closely. If privatization happens and rates go up, it could push even more buyers to the FHA loan, which means stricter lending requirements, longer processing times. Stay informed, work with a great lender, and if you're on the fence, it might be a good idea to lock in a rate sooner rather than later. Okay, guys, now I want to hear from you. Do you think Fannie and Freddie should be privatized, or is this a bad move for the market? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get a conversation going. And if you found this breakdown helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you next time right here on Estate Media. I'm Ben Belack. This is The Breakdown.